Hello, and welcome back to ByzantineChant.org. I'm again Nicholas Jones, and we'll be continuing our trek through Byzantine chant. Now, to recap some things that we learned last time, we went through a melody, we began to learn some rhythm, specifically the classima, the sideways apostrophe that adds a beat to notes, along with aptly, diply, and triply, which also add beats to the note. And then here's our scale that we deal with, mi, pa, vu, ga, vi, ke, zo, ni. And here's some of the symbols that we've learned thus far, specifically dealing with up for the moment. We learned the ison, which is go up 0, the oligon, which is go up 1, and then we have the unstressed and the stressed syllable as well. We learned how to jump up 2, where we have two different ways of writing this, depending upon where the melody goes. And we also have the stress symbol for jumping up 2. Now we're going to delve into two different sections of going up notes, just more jump-up symbols, and I'm going to throw a lot of symbols at you right now, mostly because we have a cheat sheet online where you can kind of look through these, but there's nothing really new that's being added, just different ways of representing different jumps. So in order to jump up 3 notes, otherwise known as a fourth, we have this symbol combination where we have the oligon and we have the kentimatos on top this time instead of on the bottom, so we bring it up to the top, and then that means jump up a third. Now, for Western musicians, oftentimes we can call this a third, or a fourth, or a fifth. The problem here is that then, is it a major or minor third? Is it a per fourth? Is it an augmented fourth? Is it a diminished fourth? So then, rather than doing that, because these scales don't deal with Western intervals, instead we'll say jump up 3 notes from where you were. So instead of going ni to ga and saying that's a fourth, we say jump up 3 notes, so we go from ni, 1, 2, 3, and this is the fourth note from there, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would make it a fourth. Now with this one, we replace the oligon with a petastis to make it a fluttered symbol. So then we change the execution to have a flutter and also to be stressed. And then in order to go up 4 notes, we add a new symbol, which is the ipsilis, and we add that on top of an oligon. And then if it's on the right-hand side, then it means jump up 4 notes, or a fifth. If it's on the left-hand side, then we drop up 5 notes, or we go up a sixth. And similarly, the same way that we replace the oligon here with the petastis to add a flutter or a stress, same way we just replace it here. Now if we go even further, we can start combining the kentimatos and the ipsilis and the oligon, and then we can jump up 6 notes, which would be a seventh. And here we have this, where we have the essentially the symbol that we had for +3, except now we've added the ipsilis. And then if we replace the oligon with the petastis, we again get a stress symbol or a flutter. And if we put the ipsilis on top, then we see that we get an octave, up 7 notes or up an octave. And then again replacing the petastis, or the oligon with the petastis, to change the character of the symbols. Now that we've mentioned many of the up symbols, and remember to go to our cheat sheet when you're looking through music, because eventually they'll become second nature, but at the moment they aren't. Now we'll go through the down symbols. Now in the red box here is what we've already gone through so far. So we have the apostrophos, which is down 1, and if you want to put a flutter onto it, you put the petastis beneath it. Again, petastis just acting as a qualitative symbol. The elafron means down 2, or jump down a third. Again, putting the petastis beneath it, and we have the iberois, which technically means down and down, and 2 apostrophoses together combine into 1 syllable. Now, if you imagine that the elafron ate an apostrophos and had it in its stomach, then you would get this combination symbol, which means 2 and 1 together, which means -3. So then we have jumped down a fourth there. And again, if you put a petastis beneath it, you have the fluttered symbol or a stressed symbol. Now we introduce the chamilis, which is a new symbol again, but this one essentially just means jump down a fifth or jump down 4 notes. So we would go from vi to ni, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again putting the petastis beneath it. Now if we begin to add combinations of symbols, we have the chamilis added to the apostrophos, which we just add -1 to this, which makes it -5. If we add the elafron, we add -2 to -4, which gives us -6, so the math works out, which is very good. And then if we add the -4 with a -1 with a -2, then we get -7, and this is our jump down the octave. And then again, with all these symbols, we just add the patastis beneath it to add the fluttered symbol. Now we'll begin discussing some rhythmic symbols, since we've pretty much established all of the jumping symbols that we'll need for the moment. Now we've already looked at the klasma and the aptly, diptly, and triply, so those add a beat, or add multiple beats to a note. Now we need to know how to decrease a note's length. So we have the gorgon, the digorgon, and the trigorgon. So, 1, 2, and 3. Now what this essentially means, and a lot of the information I'll be giving you here is more practical and not necessarily the theory behind it, but how I've learned to understand these, and how to little mnemonic devices for how to remember these. Starting with the gorgon, we have 1 point divided into 2. So we know that this one has something to do with 1/2. This one is 2 points divided into 3. We know this one has something to deal with 2/3. And then the trigorgon has 3 points divided into 4, so we know that one has something to do with 3/4. Now the problem with Byzantine notation and rhythm is that it doesn't operate in the same way that Western music operates. In fact, the Western music, normally we see a note, let's say a quarter note with a dot on it, so then we know that that's 1.5 beats. Byzantine notation, it's always retroactive, so you see it on a note after which it should have already started happening. And to explain this, because it can get a little bit confusing, we'll have a few examples. So, let's say we put an ison, and we have an oligon after it, and then let's say we put the gorgon on top. We can also put it on the bottom. So we see the ison, and then we think, oh, it's 1 beat. But in fact, the oligon with the gorgon on top, the gorgon says take 1/2 of a beat off of the note that it sits on and the previous note. So the gorgon makes the oligon 1/2 because it takes off 1/2 of a beat, and then it also makes the ison 1/2. Okay? So then it's retroactive. It acts on the previous note, whatever precedes it. Now if we were to deal with the digorgon, if we have the same thing, now we put it on top. Now the digorgon takes 2/3 away from the note it sits on, making this 1/3 of a beat. The previous note, 1/3 of a beat, and then the note after it. So we'll just add another oligon there, and that one is also 1/3. Now, you might wonder, why does it take off the previous note? Now my major understanding with this is that since Byzantine music is all about word painting and it's all about the words, the music is pretty much secondary and it's there to emphasize the words. When you're reading music, you should always be reading ahead, reading the note, the next note that you have to sing, or at least reading the next note, if not reading, the next line, so that you are never unfamiliar with what you're going to sing. You're always 1 step ahead of what you're supposed to be singing. So in this way, if you're not reading ahead, you're going to be wrong. Because when you see this note, you should already be here and know that this is going to be 1/2. If you're reading this note, you should already be here and know that this is going to be 1/3, and that this note will be 1/3. So it's kind of, Byzantine notation is forcing you into reading ahead and telling you you should be doing this anyway, so it's going to kind of push you ahead and make you do what it wants you to do. Now, if we have the trigorgon, now we can just go down here, and now, instead of having 3 notes it affects, we have 4 notes. So we go there, and again, all of these, they only affect 1 symbol ahead of them, before them, but they affect either no symbols after them, 1 symbol, or this one affects 2 symbols. So this one would take 3/4 away, so making this one 1/4, 1/4, again 1/4, and 1/4. Now, the Western notation equivalents of these are, it makes these 2 half notes, or 8th notes rather. It makes this a triplet, because all of these take a 1 beat, and it makes all these 16th notes. So we've begun to introduce rhythm a little bit. Now we'll go further, just for practical examples, to kind of demonstrate what the gorgon means, and how it combines with klasma and things like that. So let's just do that. But let's add, let's say an ison. Let me put a klasma on top of it. and then we put an oligon afterwards, and this time we'll put, let's say, the gorgon underneath. Now, this operates because we said that it takes a half a beat off the note it sits on, so that we know that the oligon is going to be a half a beat. Now, this symbol here is 2 beats because we put a klezmer on top, which makes it 2 beats. But the gorgon takes a half a beat away, so this one will be 1.5 beats. So 1, 2, end. Okay? So now, if we were to add, let's say, the D gorgon on top, it takes away 2/3, making this one 1/3 of a beat, and it takes away 2/3 from this one, which was 2 beats, making this 1 1/3, and then we'd have to add something. Let's say we have the apostrophos, and now that one's going to be 1/3. So that 1, 2, and da 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 da. So we have a triplet there. So we've seen some combined symbols before. We've seen these two in particular. And so this is the oligon with the kentimaton on top. This is the kentimaton with the oligon on top. Now some people might say, like, what's the difference? They pretty much do the same thing, except we've already told you before that this one will start a new syllable, most likely. This one can't start a new syllable because we read from bottom up. So we read the kentimaton first, which has to be elided to a previous symbol. Now let's say we wanted to add rhythm to this. So we'll add the gorgon up here, and we'll add the gorgon there. Now these operate in 2 different fashions because, as we've seen before, we have the oligon, and we have the kentimaton, and here we have the kentimaton, followed by the oligon. Now the one thing to know about the gorgon is that whenever it's in some sort of symbol combination with the kentimaton, it will always sit on the kentimaton. So here, we put it there, and here we put it there. So then, as we've just demonstrated before, it would make the kentimaton 1/2, and it would make here the oligon 1/2, because it takes a half a beat off the note it sits on, and a half a beat off the previous note. Here, the oligon is 1 beat, because there's no gorgon after it, because the gorgon sits on the kentimaton, but it makes the kentimaton 1/2, and whatever note precedes it, it takes off a half a beat as well. So let's say we put an ison here, and then we put our ison here, it would make our ison 1/2 as well. And if we put an ison there, and we put the ison there. So there's 2 different ways to execute this. We have la la la, 1, 2, end, whereas this is la, 1 and 2. So these have 2 separate functions based upon where the rhythm sits in this combination symbol. Now before we leave for today, we'd like to bring in one more symbol combination that's new to us. And that would be this symbol combination right here. Now we've seen the apostrophos, we've seen the elafron, but if we put them together, and most of the time if they touch, it forms a new symbol combination. And this is a different rhythm, which we've just been learning with the gorgons. So, for example, we'll use our iperois. So if we put a gorgon on top, if we put a symbol on top, it means it acts on the first of the apostrophos in that symbol. So if we have an ison here with iperois, with a gorgon, it means this. We have ison with apostrophos, with the gorgon on top, followed by another apostrophos, making this one 1/2, making the one before it 1/2, and this one is 1. Now the thing is here is we can't put another syllable here, because where will it sit? So we have, if we start on vu, let's say, then 1 and 2. So we wouldn't start a new syllable on this one. What if we wanted to go, then he? Now we have the synechis elafron, which is what the symbol here is called. So here we have the ison, and then we actually have some sort of like little resting place here where we can put a syllable. So we can put then he, which when written, exploded here, looks exactly like this one. But we can put a syllable here, and we can put a syllable here. Again, 1/2, 1/2, and 1. So these two symbol combinations here essentially mean the same thing rhythmically. But when we're dealing with texts, they mean different things because now we can put syllables at this specific location. So, for ByzantineChan.org, I'm Nicholas Jones. Thanks for joining us.